Welcome to question and answer number 7. Uh, Today we're going to be covering hill sprinting versus stairs, and we're going to be looking at how to maintain strength on a cut. Let's just run through a few comments on YouTube first. Scottish 8607, thanks Mark. Using bands in the warm-up sounds like a good plan, or just a wee light band on the 6x2 day. Running Russian squat masters and always trying to squat better. I'll maybe film some and put them in on my log on the forums. It's a good idea for anyone who wants to join the forums and chuck your videos up on there for some constructive criticism. I'd probably just leave the band, to be honest, just now, Jimmy. Maybe use them in your warm up, but don't chuck them on the 6x2. When you're doing, just do the set straight weight. Maybe warm up for the heavy sessions with bands to a point. And go from there. The program's good. Don't fuck with it too much. Jimmy Brungus, you could have at least done your fucking hair before you did this, Mark. Christ, someone needs to do a remix of your air benching. Cheers, Jimmy. I hope you like the hairdo I've done for you. I thought I'd spike it up all nice for you. Yeah. Anyway, back to this question. Maintaining strength on a cut. Any advice? This is something I unfortunately have a lot of experience with. And the biggest cut I've done was probably before the 2012 IPF Classic Worlds. Went from, it was 114 to 92 kilos in this, so that's what, 114, no, 16 kilos. Is that right? 114. Yeah, like 20 plus kilos. It took me about, the comp was in June, July, I got the call in February. So I was cutting for like 5 months. I used intermittent fasting, but you can use any kind of calorie deficit to achieve your goals. It doesn't really matter. The reason I used intermittent fasting for when I was doing the cut was I'm a bit more, I find it quite easy to go long periods without eating. What I find difficult is controlling portion size when I eat. I quite like to just eat a shitload. So intermittent fasting kind of played to my strengths there, whereas it only gave me like a limited opportunity to kind of go overboard. I found it worked really well, but then it's just calorie deficit, the same as any other diet. That's how that works. Well, I think the best way to maintain your strength on a cut is to make the cut slow. So don't try to drop 10 kilos in a month. Try just that, like the normal sort of advice you'd get is normally the best kind of advice you get, where you'd cut like 250 to 500 grams in a week. 500 grams being a bit on the fast side. The first week or so, when you're just dropping water weight, you will drop faster. Like you might lose 3-4 kilos in the first month, but then once you kind of settle into a pattern of being on a 500 calorie deficit, or creating a 500 calorie deficit or 250 calorie deficit through exercise, or however you're doing it, just let your weight come down slowly. So just let it come down 250 to 500 grams a week. So by the end of the month, you've lost a kilo or 2 kilos. And you're looking to cut weight over like 6 to 12 months. You're not trying to cut weight over like a month, unless you're in good shape and you're just trying to sharpen up a little bit. If you're a little bit out of shape and you want to kind of get back to a point where you're happy with the way you are, body composition wise anyway, just take your time with it. Slow and steady definitely wins the race. And then when you're training, you want to change the goalposts a little bit. So if let's say if you went through a 3-year bulking phase, and during that 3-year bulking phase you've been using bench press, overhead press, back squat, deadlift is like your primary lifts, or chin up maybe, and barbell row, they're all your primary lifts that you've been bulking on. So that's how you've been looking at your progress. So you've benches went from 120 to 170 in that time, squats went from A to B, you kind of get the idea. Best thing to do is just shift the goalposts. So move on to front squat, move on to incline bench, move on to decline bench, move on to chin ups with a different grip, move on to shoulder press with a different bar, just so psychologically you can't see your strength dropping, because it's going to drop anyway. But it'll change your stimulus, and it'll give you exercises that maybe you haven't used before, so you can actually hit PBs, although they'll be soft PBs, and they won't really be like you gaining strength. But one, it's really good for your mental attitude just to keep progressing in the gym. So if you keep using the same exercises you use for your bulk, for your cut, then the psychology is going to fuck with you, because for a fact it's going to decline, and you're just going to see week in, week out, just how much strength you're losing. You will be able to gain strength for a little while. So let's say you kept the same exercises in your program as you used on your bulk. Maybe for the first 2 months, 3 months, you can continue to progress, but eventually calorie deficit is going to catch up with you. There's only so much energy in the tank, and you can't keep getting stronger forever when you're losing weight. So I would say either change the goalposts, change the exercises, or just train with a sets and reps scheme that keeps you under any kind of pressure. So stay away from rep out training, stay away from lifting high percentages of your RM. So like don't lift 90% for 3 reps, because that's going to be a 3 RM anyway. So if you lifted 90%, do it for an easy single. If you're lifting 85%, stay under 5 reps. If you're lifting 80%, stay under 7 reps. Just cut yourself a rep or 2 short of those RMs all of the time, and your strength should maintain. It'll probably increase for a little bit during the cut, maybe the first 4-6 weeks, whatever. It might even increase during the whole time you're cutting. Depends how weak you are. But if you're a reasonable level physical and development and strength, your strength's going to drop during the cut. So 2 best ways to avoid that is either change the goalposts, or just stay away from failure in your training. Stay away from just failure in general, whereas failure through being too heavy, or you just repping out too far. So you're keeping some reserves in, and that way, both mentally and physically, you'll retain as much as possible during the cut. And then when you start trying to gain weight again, you'll be in that much of a better place, because you won't have took a knock to your confidence. And if you've been kind of undershooting your main lifts that you use to gauge how strong and big you are, then when you come back to them on a bulk or a period of strength gain, then you're going to be starting from a higher watermark than you would have done if you just try to bang your head against the wall and just keep on training at the same intensities and the same manner as you were when you were bulking. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Next question comes from David Coots on the forums. Sprinting hills versus stairs. I basically have 2 options for sprint training. Old infirmary lane near the CSE, 70 meters, fairly sharp incline, several sets of steps. 2, a hill just outside my house, 250 meters, very sharp incline. Is there any real difference between stairs and hills when it comes to sprint training? Also, is there a maximum distance one should sprint without stopping? I welcome other members' views on this. So, this is one of the topics that I'm maybe not such an expert on. I do have a fairly decent understanding of it, but I'm nowhere near as well versed in conditioning as I am in strength and power training. But I still have 2 degrees, and I've done a fair bit of reading on it, but I'm by no means like a world-renowned expert. So anyone has any decent opinions, or you want to enter some discussion in the comment section, please feel free. Basically, the way you're going to look at it is, if you're training for running, so if you're a running athlete, like you're a rugby player, you're a football player, you're an endurance athlete, and you want to train, basically any kind of endurance training you're going to do, eventually, like ultimately, is going to be modality specific. So if you do a lot of bike training and you get obscenely fit on the bike, then that's not going to transfer over onto a rower. It will do to a point, whereas your general cardiovascular fitness, your VO2 max, your adaptations, like your capillary density, your the enzymes that you've developed through the training, all the physiological adaptations you're going to carry over from doing cardiovascular endurance training will carry over onto the rower to some point, but the transfer is going to stop somewhere because you've been training sitting down, pumping your legs, whereas in a rower it's a upper body pull, so you won't have any your upper body won't have adapted to endurance training, whereas your lower body will have. So if you've done nothing but cycling training and you've moved on to the rower, then you're going to notice your upper body's going to fatigue very quicker than you're used to your legs fatiguing. That's because you haven't got the specific adaptations you will get from a rower. So I'm trying to say, if you want to run in your sport, or you want to train your running ability, then stairs aren't going to be running. Stairs are stepping. It's not the same sort of thing. You have to land on a defined surface. There's probably a lot more vertical force than there would be in a hill run. You change your stride. You artificially have to chop your stride length to make the stair. The transfer from a stair run is not going to be the same as the transfer from a hill run. If you want to just train your lactate tolerance, so you just want to get yourself in a place where you just feel like your legs are heavy as fuck, and you can't really, you want to just get into the place where lactic acid has built up to the point in your muscles where you can't actually physically move, and just train your ability to operate in that space. And then either of these two modalities, or stairs or steps, are going to achieve pretty much the same thing. If you want to transfer into running activities, then I'd say hills are better because you'll have a more natural running gait than you would do upstairs, because it's more running, although it's not quite the same as running on a flat, especially on a very steep incline. So the differences between stairs and hills, basically what you want to do with it. If you just want to train the energy systems, you just want to train your lactate tolerance, then they're pretty much as good as each other. If you want to train to run specifically, then a hill's better than stairs, just because it's more specific to running. Slightly more specific, but if you had to pull it out from each other, then the hill's more specific. And then, is there a maximum distance once you sprint without stopping? It depends what you want to train. So if you want to train aerobically, so you want to just train longer endurance, heart, lungs, capillaries, your ability just to operate under fatigue, then it does. You need to kind of have targeted intervals, so you're not blowing up when you're doing it. So an example you could use is, let's say the first session you run a 30-meter hill, and you have 20 seconds to get up that hill. Then you've got 20 seconds to walk back down and start again, and that's your interval. You run that continuously. You want to set it up so if you want to train for cardiovascular, you want to set it up so it's not going to be the point where you run the first hill and you're fucked and you can't make it back down the hill because you've blown yourself up too much to actually make it down in time to start. You want it to be, if you're running 12 reps of that circuit, so 20 second sprint, 20 second walk back recovery, you want to set it up so only by rep 11 or 12 you're starting to kind of fatigue to the point where it's actually difficult to get back to the start. And then if you do 4 sets of that, by the time you get on to set 4, then you're really toiling. Whereas set 1 might have been reasonably easy. You get 2 minutes break. Set 2, a bit harder. 2 minutes break. Set 3, it's getting really hard. 2 minutes break. Set 4, it's hell on earth. That's if you want to train your general endurance. That's kind of the way most of your endurance training should be, because it's reasonably easy to recover from. You can do 2, 3, 4 sessions a week. You'll see a session on session improvement, and you can easily change it. So once the 4 sets of 10 sprints and walkbacks is easy now, then it's easy to add 5 meters on to the goal to make it harder, or you can add extra sets, extra reps, make it less, so it's like a 15-second walk back. You can change the parameters so that it now becomes like you've stepped it up, so you're now fit enough that this session is not doing anything for you, and then you can easily step it up. If you're training lactate tolerance, which is something you're going to need to train for some sports, so grappling sports, you definitely need to train your lactate tolerance. Like rowing, you definitely need to train your lactate tolerance. Biking, pretty much any endurance sport, you have to have that ability, and that's going to be like your sprint finish. So, like in a marathon, your lactate tolerance is going to be, once you're at that point, is your ability just to finish. Just like your second wind. Or like in a bike race, it's like the last 1K, just blow yourself up and just go, and just push through that pain and still function. That sort of training is what's going to help you with that ability to finish. In the context of like a grappling sport, and it's your ability that once you've been like back and forth for 3-4 minutes, and then there's a chance you can go in and finish this. Like you can lock in a submission, or you need to get out of a submission quickly. Then it's your ability to just have the energies to go, and then your aerobic ability will help you recover from that. If you don't, like if you're escaping from a sub and you get out of the way, then your aerobic capacity is going to help you recover from that sudden burst. It's going to help you clear the lactate in your muscles so you can eventually function at a normal level again. To do that, you basically just need to empty yourself. So a modality for like lactate training, which is something you can do either on either the hills or the stairs, it doesn't really matter, would be 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. Set out a grid, 5 meters, 10 meters, 15 meters, sprint up to the 5, down, sprint up to the 10, down, sprint up to the 15, down. You have to complete that distance within 30 seconds. You go as fast as you can. So if you complete it in 20 seconds, you complete it in 20 seconds. So it's a maximum effort each time. You do 6 sets of that, so 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. You get 3 minutes or 4 minutes off, and you repeat that. That's sort of like actual balls out training. Like on a rower, you can do it where you do 500 meters max out, 90 seconds on, off. 500 meters max out, 90 seconds off. 500 meters max out. So you're training with like insufficient recovery, but in the actual sets, or you're training with insufficient recovery between sets, and you're just going as hard as you can, just making yourself blow up, and then just dealing with the consequences. So if you ever done like a max out 500 meter sprint, and you like fall off the rower, how long it takes you to recover from that, how long it takes you to recover from that state is more important. It's more down to your aerobic shape. So I might be able to do a one-off 500 meter row like balls out, but it's going to take me 6-7 minutes, maybe longer, to recover because my aerobic fitness is absolutely terrible. If you look at an athlete who's in good aerobic shape, if they do the same effort on the rower, then they might be good to go again in 90 seconds, 2 minutes, maybe a minute, because their aerobic system or their endurance adaptations are to the point where they recover a lot faster off it. So you need to kind of determine what you want to achieve with the hill or the stairs sessions. I'd say you probably want 2 aerobic sessions if you're going to do 3 sessions, and 1 anaerobic session, and put the anaerobic session at the end of the week because it's going to take 2-3 days to recover from the anaerobic session. But yeah, it is something you're going to need to train the anaerobic stuff. But you need more aerobic in your program than anaerobic. And if you're not in good shape, then you should probably just train anaerobic or aerobic for a period like 3-4 weeks, and then bring the anaerobic point into your training. Because if you're in bad shape, like me, aerobically, and if I was to do a program, if I did a proper anaerobic session, I'm going to be out of it for like 2-3 days. If you ever done a Wingate test, it's like a 30-second balls out sprint on the cycling ergometer. I did one when I was in second year uni, and I was doing a little bit of rugby, playing a little bit of rugby league, but I'd kind of fallen off fitness pretty much, and I was just lifting weights. I wasn't in bad shape, like I was probably in better shape than I am now, but I did a 30-second effort, and I swear to God, like it took me 4 or 5 hours to get over it. I was sitting around, didn't know where I was, wanted to puke for about an hour. I could barely talk to anybody. It's a special place if you ever like done a proper anaerobic session and just went for it. Just put yourself in that place. It's not a good place to be. But if you want to be as fit as you can be, you have to get there in your training every now and again. Yeah, so it's been 20 minutes. I went off on a bit too much of a tangent. Yeah, as always, like, please subscribe. Please leave some questions down in the comments. Get on the forums, castironstrength.com/forums. Send me an email, speedpowerperformance@gmail.com with any questions. Until next time, this is Mark, castironstrength.com, signing off. Goodbye.